Illarave stepped off the shuttle and looked out over the sprawling city suspended above the planet. The orbital towers gleamed in the sunlight, their metal surfaces reflecting the distant blue of the planet below. She tightened her coat around herself. She had never liked the city. Too crowded, too noisy, and far too complicated for her taste. But duty called, and she had to be here. She had not expected this mission to feel dangerous, yet instinct told her it might be. Politics could be deadly, even in places far from the front lines. Her father, a diplomat for the Terran Alliance, had sent her to oversee negotiations and gatherings that could change the fate of the colonies. It was a role she neither sought nor enjoyed, but she accepted it because it was her responsibility. As she moved through the bustling arrival terminal, she noticed the people around her. Humans, of course, but also alien species mingling freely. Some had long limbs that bent at odd angles, others had skin that shimmered in rainbow hues. They moved with purpose, discussing trade, technology, and politics in a dozen languages. Illara felt small in the middle of all this, just one human among many, and that made her uneasy. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice that made her stop. "Miss Vey." She turned sharply and saw a man in uniform standing near the terminal gates. His posture was straight, military precise. His dark hair was neatly trimmed, and his eyes scanned her with calm focus. "Captain Marcus Hale," he said, introducing himself. "I am your bodyguard for this mission." Illara raised an eyebrow. She had expected a professional, someone efficient who could keep her safe without drawing attention. She had not expected someone so serious. "A bodyguard," she said slowly. "Not a babysitter. I need someone who can protect me, not hover over every step I take." Marcus's expression did not change. "Understood, Miss Vey. My duty is to ensure your safety at all times. That is my responsibility and my choice." She sighed but knew there was no point in arguing. She had requested a bodyguard. Now she had one. Better to accept it and move on. As they walked through the terminal, Marcus's gaze never wavered. He scanned the crowd, noting every movement, every suspicious glance. Illara tried to ignore it, focusing instead on the city visible through the glass walls. The orbital towers twisted upward like metallic trees, and the hovercars zipped between them in orderly patterns. It was beautiful in a way that made her stomach twist with anxiety. Beautiful, but dangerous. When they reached the transport bay, Marcus led the way to a small shuttle waiting for them. "This shuttle is secure," he said. "It has reinforced shields and automated defense systems. It will take us to your accommodations safely." Illara nodded. She appreciated the preparation, even if it made her feel a little trapped. "I hope you understand," she said as she entered the shuttle, "I hired a bodyguard, not someone willing to sacrifice himself for me. I need protection, not heroics." Marcus's eyes met hers. "I am aware of your wishes, Miss Vey. But I will do what is necessary to ensure your safety." The shuttle lifted off smoothly, leaving the bustling terminal behind. Illara sat by the window and watched as the city spread out beneath them, gleaming towers and glowing lights fading into the distance. She could feel Marcus's presence beside her, steady and unyielding, like a silent shield. For the first time in her life, Illara wondered if she had underestimated what it meant to be protected. She wanted efficiency, safety, and discretion. She had not expected loyalty that went beyond duty. She had not expected someone who would notice threats before they appeared or who would prepare for every possible danger, even if she could not see it. She shook her head, trying to dismiss the thought. She had work to do, negotiations to attend, and a mission to complete. A bodyguard was a tool, not a companion. She reminded herself firmly that she did not need anyone's devotion, only their skill. But Marcus Hale remained beside her, quiet and watchful, a living promise that nothing would reach her without his knowledge. And as the shuttle moved steadily through the orbital lanes, Illyra realized that this mission would be more complicated than she had imagined. The city below gleamed in the distance, and with it, the unknown challenges of her journey began to take shape. Illyra did not yet know how much Marcus Hale would matter to her, or how much she would need his unyielding presence in the days to come. She only knew one thing clearly: this mission would change everything. The shuttle landed smoothly on the upper platform of the city's central tower. Illyra stepped out and felt the hum of the city under her feet. The air was cooler here, and the view of distant planets and orbital lanes stretched endlessly. She adjusted her bag and looked around, noticing the smooth corridors and automated transport systems that made the city seem alive and organized. Marcus walked beside her, scanning every corner, every moving figure. His eyes were sharp and alert, missing nothing. Illyra felt a mix of irritation and admiration. She wanted someone to follow her and keep her safe, but she also wanted freedom. Marcus's constant vigilance reminded her that she was not entirely free, even here. Her temporary residence was a high-rise suite with large windows and reinforced security systems. Marcus checked the locks, the communication lines, and the emergency exits before she had even unpacked her clothes. "Everything is secure," he said calmly. "I recommend you avoid wandering alone outside until you are familiar with the area." Illyra crossed her arms. "I can take care of myself, Captain. I do not need constant warnings." Marcus nodded, but there was no judgment in his face. He simply said, "I will ensure your safety regardless of your choices, Miss Vey. That is my duty." The first few days passed with routine meetings and political discussions. Illyra attended the gatherings, watched the alien delegates with curiosity, and occasionally questioned Marcus about security. He never gave more than necessary, never alarmed her unnecessarily. Still, small things began to bother her. Shadowed figures in hallways, sensors picking up odd movements, messages that seemed harmless but raised his suspicion. Each time, Marcus acted discreetly, adjusting their route, calling in minor support, always keeping her safe without alarming her. Illyra began to notice his method. He was always one step ahead. During a dinner meeting, a waiter seemed to linger too long near her table. Marcus subtly moved, intercepting the waiter's attention and ensuring nothing happened. Illyra caught his glance, a silent message that he had seen the risk. She was startled but refused to show it. Later, in the privacy of her suite, she asked, "Why are you so careful? This is a diplomatic gathering, not a battlefield." Marcus replied simply, "Diplomacy can be dangerous. Threats do not announce themselves. My role is to protect you from them before they appear." Illyra stared out the window at the city below. She wanted independence, but she had to admit the truth. Marcus's presence was more than reassurance. It was a shield she could not fully understand yet. Still, she reminded herself firmly that she had hired a professional, not someone who would risk everything for her. One evening, while walking through the plaza to attend a gathering, Marcus noticed something unusual. A small group of aliens was lingering near the edge of the platform. They appeared to be waiting, watching, measuring movements. Marcus's instincts told him they were assessing a target. He slowed Illyra, adjusting her path so they moved past unnoticed. She sensed his caution but did not understand the reason. Later, she asked, "Did you see something?" Marcus shook his head slightly. "Nothing worth concern. It is my responsibility to notice what others may overlook." Illyra nodded, a little frustrated, but also grateful. She realized that danger existed even in places she thought were safe. Marcus's vigilance was invisible to most, but it was constant. She began to understand that protection was more than strength or weapons. It was observation, anticipation, and the willingness to act without being asked. That night, as she reviewed her notes for the next day's meetings, Marcus sat near the door, quietly monitoring the room. She glanced at him and noticed the faint scar on his cheek, a reminder of battles he had faced before. He was not just a soldier. He was someone shaped by challenges, someone who had learned the cost of failure. Illyra felt a strange mix of respect and discomfort. She had wanted a bodyguard, someone professional and efficient. She had not expected someone so devoted, someone whose entire presence seemed to declare that her life mattered to him. She reminded herself again that she was not looking for loyalty or sacrifice, only safety. Still, as she closed her eyes that night, she could not ignore the sense of security Marcus gave her. For the first time in her life, she understood what it meant to be protected, and she realized that danger might be closer than she had ever imagined. She only hoped she could trust him without losing herself in the process. The sun had barely risen over the orbital city when Illyra prepared for another day of meetings. She adjusted her outfit and reviewed the notes her assistant had prepared. The schedules were tight, and the gatherings promised tension as alien delegates debated resources and trade agreements. She had done this many times before, but the stakes always felt higher here. Marcus stood near the door, arms crossed, scanning the corridor. His gaze followed every movement with precision, noting the arrival of every guest and staff member. Illyra tried to ignore him, focusing instead on the holographic charts displayed on her tablet. She appreciated his vigilance, yet she found it exhausting. She wanted protection, yes, but not constant scrutiny. The first meeting was uneventful. Delegates discussed logistics, and Marcus observed quietly. Illyra noticed how smoothly he moved, intercepting minor disruptions before they reached her. She began to see that his presence was like a silent guardian, always aware of the dangers she could not see. Still, she reminded herself that she wanted a professional, not someone who risked himself for her. After the meeting, as she walked down a brightly lit corridor, she felt it. A subtle shift in the air, a quiet whisper of movement behind a service door. Marcus stiffened instantly and placed a hand lightly on her arm. "Stay close," he said calmly. Illyra frowned, annoyed. "What is it?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Potential threat," he replied. "Nothing confirmed, but we must be careful." Her annoyance deepened. She had been trained to stay calm, but she did not like being treated like a child. "I can handle myself," she said firmly. "I did not hire you to hover every moment." Marcus met her eyes without flinching. "I am not here to bother you, Miss Vey. I am here to protect you. Sometimes protection requires action before a threat is visible." Before she could respond, the lights flickered. A group of figures emerged from the shadows, moving quickly toward the hall where she had been walking. Marcus reacted instantly, placing himself between Illyra and the intruders. He moved with precision, deflecting attacks, guiding her away from danger, and using the environment to their advantage. Illyra's heart raced. This was no rehearsal, no drill. These were real threats. She realized how wrong she had been to underestimate Marcus's intensity. He was not overreacting, he was saving her life. Within moments, security personnel arrived, alerted by Marcus's silent communication. The attackers were forced to retreat, vanishing before anyone could identify them. Marcus checked that Illyra was unharmed, his eyes scanning the area once more. She noticed the slight tension in his jaw, the readiness in his stance, and she began to understand that danger had always been closer than she realized. Later, in the safety of her suite, she confronted him. "That was serious," she said. "How did you know they were coming?" Marcus leaned against the doorframe. "Experience and observation. I noticed subtle movements and behavior that indicated a potential attack. Timing and preparation saved you." Illyra shook her head. "I asked for a bodyguard, not a man willing to risk his life for me." Marcus's gaze softened slightly. "It is my choice, Miss Vey. My duty does not end at standing beside you. It requires action when your safety is threatened. That is my responsibility." Illyra sat on the edge of her bed, processing the events. She had always believed protection was about rules and procedures, about being out of reach of danger. She had not expected devotion, not this level of vigilance and readiness. Marcus did not act out of fear or pride. He acted because it was necessary, because he had made a promise she had not asked for, and because he understood that her life mattered. That night, she lay awake by the window, staring at the glowing towers and the streaks of hover cars passing through the city lanes. She could not forget the look in Marcus's eyes during the attack, the calm focus, the unyielding presence. He had saved her, not just with skill, but with dedication. She realized that protection was more than shielding someone from harm. It was anticipation, planning, and willingness to act when danger appeared. And Marcus Hale had all of it. Illyra closed her eyes, acknowledging a truth she had tried to ignore. She had wanted a bodyguard. She had wanted safety without dependence. But now she understood that protection was not just about distance from danger, it was about trust, about knowing that someone would not waver even when the odds were against them. Tomorrow, she would continue her work, attend more meetings, and navigate the complexities of diplomacy. But she would not forget the lesson she had learned today. Marcus Hale was no ordinary bodyguard. He was something far more valuable. And for the first time, Illyra wondered what it truly meant to rely on someone else. The morning light streamed through the windows of Illyra's suite, painting the city in soft gold. She sat at her desk, reviewing the schedule for the day. Meetings with alien delegates were always delicate. Decisions here could affect entire colonies, and a single mistake could have disastrous consequences. She adjusted her notes carefully, preparing herself to navigate the complicated negotiations ahead. Marcus stood near the door, silent and alert, scanning the corridor and the view outside. Illyra had grown accustomed to his presence, yet she still felt a twinge of discomfort. He was always vigilant, always prepared for danger. She reminded herself that he was a professional. Still, a part of her could not ignore the quiet intensity in his eyes. During breakfast, Marcus handed her a secure data pad. "I intercepted communications that suggest unusual activity in the city," he said calmly. "It appears to be coordinated. I believe there is a faction watching you closely." Illyra frowned. "A faction? You mean like an organized group of enemies? This is a diplomatic city. People are supposed to follow rules here." Marcus shook his head. "Rules are only effective when enforced. Some groups act outside of regulations to achieve their goals. They may view your presence as an opportunity to create chaos." Illyra paused, realizing he was serious. And you think they will act soon? Possibly, Marcus replied. We must remain vigilant. I have already adjusted your schedule and security details to reduce exposure. Her mind raced. She had expected political challenges, but not danger of this kind. Yet she could see how Marcus had already thought of everything, altered routes, monitored transport, emergency plans for every meeting. His attention to detail was extraordinary. Throughout the day, Marcus's vigilance became more apparent. At the first meeting, he subtly positioned himself between Illyra and any potential threats. His eyes scanned the delegates, noting unusual behavior, gestures that might signal hostility, and unguarded moments that could be exploited. Illyra began to understand that his dedication went far beyond normal duty. After the meeting, Marcus led her to a quiet lounge area. He displayed the intercepted communications, highlighting encrypted messages and patterns. They are monitoring your movements, he said. Their goal is to destabilize negotiations by creating fear or eliminating key figures. You are a target because of your position. Illyra's heart sank. She had expected obstacles in her work, but not an active plot against her life. This is more serious than I imagined, she admitted. I hired a bodyguard to keep me safe, not to uncover conspiracies. How do we stop them? Marcus's expression was steady. We anticipate their moves and remove the opportunity for action. Security is not only protection but prevention. My role is to ensure you complete your mission safely. Illyra realized something important in that moment. Marcus was not just following instructions. He was thinking ahead, planning, and acting in ways she could not predict. He was not motivated by orders or rules alone. He cared about outcomes, about her safety, and about the mission itself. Later, as they walked through the plaza, Marcus pointed out subtle signs of surveillance, drones hovering at a distance, small groups of individuals appearing in multiple locations, devices that could track movement. Illyra saw them only because he drew her attention to them. She was beginning to understand how invisible danger could be. At the end of the day, back in her suite, she confronted him again. I never asked for this level of involvement, she said. I only wanted someone to protect me. This feels like more than duty. Marcus looked at her, calm and unwavering. Protection is more than presence, Miss Vey. It requires awareness, anticipation, and sometimes action that you may not notice until it matters. I choose to do this because it is necessary. Your safety is my responsibility. Illyra sighed, realizing that she could not argue with him. He had already proven himself capable, and the evidence of the threats he uncovered could not be ignored. She began to understand that Marcus's dedication was not simply obedience. It was a measure of humanity at its finest, focus, courage, and willingness to act when it counted. That night, she looked out at the city lights, thinking of the invisible dangers and the man who had chosen to face them for her. She knew her life would never be the same. Marcus Hale was no ordinary bodyguard. He was a constant shield, a vigilant presence, and someone who believed in protecting others with unwavering commitment. Illyra realized she had underestimated what true protection meant. She had wanted safety, but now she understood it required trust, awareness, and sometimes actions she might not like but needed. Marcus had already proven himself beyond expectation, and she could feel the weight of that truth settling over her. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, more meetings, and more hidden dangers. But she also knew that she had someone by her side who would see every threat, prepare for every possibility, and act without hesitation. And for the first time, She felt a cautious sense of relief in the midst of her growing fear. The following days were tense for Illyra. Meetings with alien delegates grew more complicated, negotiations harder, and the sense of being watched never left her. She moved carefully through the city, noting the changes Marcus made to their schedule and the adjustments he applied to every detail of her routine. At first, she had resisted, irritated by his constant presence. Now, she realized it was necessary, even if it made her feel confined. Marcus remained close, always scanning, always aware. He never intruded unnecessarily but never let her out of his sight. Illyra began to notice subtle things, the way he anticipated people's movements, how he would adjust a route before a potential threat appeared, and how he seemed to read situations faster than anyone else. She started to understand that his professionalism was unmatched. One evening, as they returned from a meeting, Marcus suggested they take a shortcut through a quieter section of the city. Illyra hesitated. She did not like being guided like a child. "I can manage the streets," she said, trying to assert her independence. Marcus shook his head slightly. "This route is safer. There is unusual activity reported near your usual path. I cannot risk exposure." Illyra studied him, seeing the calm in his eyes and the careful planning behind every word. She realized he did not act out of fear, nor out of unnecessary caution. He acted because he knew what could happen. She nodded quietly, deciding to follow his lead. As they moved through the city lanes, Marcus pointed out minor anomalies, a maintenance bot that appeared too frequently near their path, a small drone hovering too high, an individual whose movements repeated at different times. Illyra had noticed none of it. The patterns were invisible to everyone but him. She began to appreciate his awareness in ways she had not expected. That night, back in her suite, she asked him, "How do you notice all these things?" Marcus paused before answering. "Experience teaches you to observe what most people ignore. I look for inconsistencies, patterns that do not fit, behavior that may indicate danger. It is not instinct alone. It is training and attention combined." Illyra realized that she had underestimated what it meant to protect someone. She had thought strength was enough, that vigilance was simple. Now she saw it required dedication, intelligence, and careful observation. She also realized she had started depending on him, even if she did not want to admit it. Over the next days, the alien faction's presence became more obvious. Small incidents occurred, messages intercepted, minor disturbances near her meetings, and glimpses of unknown individuals following her. Marcus handled each situation calmly, acting quickly to neutralize threats without alarming her. She started to notice the subtle ways he protected her, not only from direct danger but also from the stress and anxiety it could cause. Their conversations in the quiet hours grew longer. Illyra learned about Marcus's past, the battles he had fought, the comrades he had lost, and the lessons he had learned about trust and responsibility. She discovered a man who had chosen to dedicate himself to protecting others, not for recognition or reward, but because he believed it was the right thing to do. For the first time, she understood that his dedication went beyond duty. Marcus did not simply follow orders. He chose to act, to anticipate, and to protect, even when no one asked him to. Illyra felt a strange mixture of admiration and unease. She wanted independence, yet she began to rely on his judgment and presence more than she wanted to admit. One evening, as they watched the city from her suite, Illyra said softly, "I never expected protection to feel like this. It is more than rules or weapons. It is presence and anticipation and trust." Marcus looked at her but did not speak. His steady gaze seemed to confirm her thoughts. She realized that she had wanted a bodyguard, someone professional and efficient, but what she had received was someone far more valuable. He was a shield, a guardian, and a man who understood what it meant to protect life in its entirety. Illyra felt a cautious warmth in her chest. She was beginning to understand that relying on someone did not mean weakness. It meant understanding strength in a different form. Marcus's presence had become a constant she could not ignore. She could see now that true protection required devotion, thoughtfulness, and a willingness to act even when danger seemed distant. As the lights of the city shimmered below, she sat beside Marcus, realizing that she could trust him with her safety, her mission, and perhaps more than she had imagined. For the first time, she understood that protection could be powerful not only in defense but in the confidence it gave her to face the challenges ahead. Illyra had come seeking a bodyguard, but she had found something deeper, a companion whose presence taught her the meaning of vigilance, loyalty, and the quiet courage it took to protect someone fully. The orbital city had never felt so tense. Alarms were silent, but the sense of danger hung in the air like static electricity. Illyra and Marcus moved quickly through the corridors of her high-rise suite, checking each room, each exit. Marcus's eyes scanned every corner, noting shadows, scanning movement, listening for anything unusual. Illyra followed closely, heart pounding, realizing the danger she had sensed in her studies was now real. Marcus had intercepted communications overnight. The alien faction she had been warned about was preparing a direct attack. Their goal was not only to intimidate but to eliminate her, to destabilize the negotiations and cause chaos in the city. Marcus reviewed the plans with precision. He had already mapped escape routes, arranged safe rooms, and coordinated with city security. His focus was unwavering, and every move he made had purpose. Illyra had never felt so vulnerable. She had relied on Marcus's guidance for weeks, and now the full weight of the threat pressed down on her. "Are we ready?" she asked quietly. Marcus turned to her. "We will do everything necessary to keep you safe. You must stay calm and follow my instructions." They left her suite and moved toward the lower levels of the city, where Marcus had planned temporary safe zones. Along the way, they noticed signs of the approaching assault, maintenance drones acting strangely, shadowy figures slipping through security checkpoints, and subtle warnings that only Marcus recognized. He guided her quickly and quietly, adjusting their path to avoid exposure. The first attack came as they reached the central transport hub. Explosions rocked the city above them, sending alarms wailing through the corridors. Illyra ducked instinctively as Marcus pulled her behind a reinforced panel. He assessed the threat immediately, noting the attackers' positions and movement patterns. His calm determination steadied her fear. "Stay low," he instructed, his voice steady. "We will move through the secondary route. Follow me closely." They navigated through hidden passageways, avoiding the main corridors where chaos had erupted. Marcus took down attackers with precision, never leaving Illyra unprotected. She realized that his training went far beyond ordinary military skill. He anticipated every move, acted before threats could reach her, and kept a steady hand even in the most dangerous moments. The alien faction had clearly underestimated human determination. Security forces arrived swiftly, coordinated by Marcus's silent alerts and guidance. Together, they pushed back the attackers, forcing them to retreat. Yet the danger was not over. The city was in chaos, and every step forward carried risk. At one point, an alien operative lunged toward Illyra with a hidden weapon. Marcus intercepted instantly, taking the full force of the attack on himself. He pushed her to safety, sustaining a wound but remaining focused. Illyra watched, heart racing, as he continued to fight without hesitation. It became painfully clear to her that Marcus did not think of himself. His only priority was her safety, even at the cost of his own life. Finally, they reached a secure location Marcus had prepared. Illyra was shaken but unharmed. Marcus checked the perimeter, ensuring no threat remained. His calm presence reassured her, even as her fear lingered. "You could have stayed back," she said quietly, still trembling. "You didn't have to risk yourself like that." Marcus met her eyes, steady and unwavering. "I am here to protect you. That is my duty. I do not consider what I must risk. I only consider that you survive." Illyra realized, for the first time, the depth of his dedication. He was more than a bodyguard. He was a shield, a constant presence, and a man who would not waver even when danger threatened to overwhelm him. His actions were not just professional, they were human. They were proof of courage, loyalty, and the power of determination. That night, as the city began to recover from the attack, Illyra sat in her secure room, thinking of Marcus. She had come seeking protection, but now she understood what it truly meant to be guarded. It was not about strength alone. It was about presence, readiness, and a willingness to face danger without fear. Marcus's wound was treated, and he remained at her side, quiet but alert. She realized she had begun to rely on him completely, not just for safety but for guidance, support, and the reassurance of his unwavering loyalty. Illyra understood something crucial in that moment. The mission, the city, and the danger could all be controlled, managed, and overcome. What mattered most was the human spirit, the courage to act, the dedication to protect, and the determination to face the impossible. Marcus Hale embodied all of it, and she felt a quiet sense of trust she had never known before. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, but she knew one thing clearly: as long as Marcus remained by her side, she could face them without fear. The city was quiet in the early morning, but Illyra could feel the tension that still lingered from the previous day's attack. She walked slowly along the observation deck of her high-rise suite, watching the sun reflect off the towers and the hovering transports that moved like silver streaks. The city had survived, and so had she. But the memory of the assault was vivid, and the presence of Marcus Hale remained constant at her side. She had thought of him as just a bodyguard when she first arrived. Someone professional, efficient, and capable. But after everything that had happened, the attacks, the subtle threats, the hidden surveillance, she realized he was far more. Marcus was a man who had chosen to dedicate himself fully to her safety, a man whose loyalty went beyond duty, and whose courage inspired confidence she had never known before. Marcus stood a few steps behind her, watching both her and the city. His eyes scanned the horizon, alert even in the calm. Illyra turned to him and saw the faint scars and tired lines on his face, proof of battles past and those endured yesterday. Yet he remained steadfast, strong, and unyielding. She realized that his actions were not just about protection. They were a reflection of humanity's best qualities: dedication, courage, and the willingness to face danger for the sake of others. "Marcus," she said softly, "I never understood what it truly meant to be protected until now. I thought I wanted someone who could keep me safe, but you've shown me it is more than that. It is trust, judgment, and courage." He did not smile, but there was a quiet understanding in his eyes. "Protection is never simple, Miss Vey. It requires presence, awareness, and the willingness to act even when the odds are against us. I have chosen this path because it is necessary. Your safety is my responsibility, and I do not waver from it." Illyra nodded, feeling a mix of admiration and gratitude. She realized she had grown to rely on him, not only for protection but for guidance and support. The alien faction had underestimated the human spirit, underestimating the strength, intelligence, and determination that Marcus embodied. She knew now that human courage was not measured only by weapons or numbers, but by the resolve to protect and persevere, no matter the cost. Later that day, she met with the leaders of the city's security forces to review the aftermath of the attack. Marcus stayed quietly in the background, observing, offering insights only when necessary. His advice had helped neutralize threats before they became disasters, and the city's officials recognized his skill. Yet he remained modest, never seeking recognition, only focused on ensuring her continued safety. As the day ended, Illyra and Marcus returned to her suite. The city lights glimmered below, and the gentle hum of hovercars filled the night. She sat by the window, reflecting on the events that had brought her here. She had expected danger, yes, but she had not expected the depth of human loyalty and courage she had witnessed through Marcus. "Do you ever fear for yourself?" she asked quietly. Marcus looked at her with steady eyes. "Fear does not guide my actions. Duty, preparation, and the commitment to protect guide me. Your safety is worth more than my worry." Illyra realized that she had underestimated the true meaning of protection. It was not merely about guarding against harm, but about the readiness to act with precision, courage, and loyalty. Marcus had shown her that the human spirit could overcome threats far greater than themselves. She had wanted a bodyguard, but she had received far more: a human shield in every sense, and a reminder of the strength that humans carried within them. As she looked at him, she understood that this journey had changed her. She had learned that trust and loyalty were as vital as skill and strategy. Marcus had not only protected her life, he had strengthened her understanding of what it meant to face danger with courage and determination. Illyra stood and turned toward Marcus. "You have proven yourself beyond any expectation. You are not just a bodyguard. You are a testament to human resolve." He bowed his head slightly, acknowledging her words without pride. "I serve as I must, Miss Vey. Your life and the mission are my responsibility. That is enough." For the first time, Illyra felt a calm certainty. She knew that with Marcus Hale by her side, she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Humanity's strength was not only in technology or numbers, but in courage, loyalty, and the willingness to act selflessly for others. Marcus embodied all of these qualities, and she was grateful to witness them. As the city settled into the quiet of night, Illyra understood that she had been protected in ways she could never have imagined. She had come seeking safety, and she had found a human spirit willing to face every danger for her. And in that realization, she knew that true protection had been given, and it had been extraordinary.